I'm Katie Tomaszewski, and I am the owner of a virtual wellness space I call Deep Line Health Club. And my flagship coaching program is where I'm coming from today, my Dynamics 90-day program that I've been teaching for almost 3 years. I am I was trained classically and lots of contemporary in there too. I love it all. Pilates is my main thing. It's most what I do Pilates and I walk.
Yes.
And I absolutely love the power of Pilates, and I love to approach it from a holistic perspective, meaning what's your life like? What are your relationships like? Let's get to the root of what's causing some of these pains and stresses, and it's not always about your piriformis.
Right.
So that's been my approach to movement. I teach a gentle Pilates class. I say Pilates, it's a lot of nervous system, but there's Pilates in the ground foundation of it.
Yes.
And that's been my jam since going totally virtual during the pandemic. I've kept a wonderful group, and we continue to grow, and they're feeling strong and happy and showing up every day. And it's great to have the option virtually to do these short classes that I always thought would be really good to have daily short classes. But sometimes in a studio, I don't know, it couldn't necessarily support that. Right. And so I've been really excited about this opportunity to work with people like this.
Amazing.
And you teach virtually too, you were just saying.
Yes, I do teach virtually. I teach in the studio. Like, this is a COVID baby behind you. Like, I opened a studio last July, started these core conversations last July, but I've been teaching and now spending more energy, even now we've started to open up, to keep people understanding the value of these and the accessibility of online classes, and just keeping it as an offering, as much as the temptation will be to fill it with an easy hour. I'm still trying to grow that online presence, right? So, yeah. I love hearing people talk about their passion for Pilates, but then at the same time fold into other areas of passion. Because there was a time when I was really struggling with, how do I marry social work, marriage and family therapy, counseling, personal training, fitness, wellness, youth, all these different things. How do I tie all these things in together? And that was a struggle for me. So hearing how you have all these different elements within a virtual place, which allows you time with your kids and stuff too, is awesome, right? Like, I think that is so cool. Can you talk about the dynamics and how you came to that as a group coaching thing?
I haven't had a lot of Pilates clients join in, and at one point I was offering these in-person classes as part of it, and she said, "Oh, can I just buy the classes?" I was like, just do dynamics. It's just like Pilates. It's just a little more, because I don't know, I was lucky in my training early to be partnered up with somebody that was kind of a deep thinker about Pilates. We were always finding these things that, like, you got to ease into that and don't push so hard. Wow, I should do that in my relationships. Like, there's all these places, right, where we see these metaphors for movement and life and thinking. And so that's always been something that's really been profound for me, to understand some stuff that, like, I knew, but I couldn't do it in my own life. So Pilates really taught me how to calm down and find peace. And then over time, I continued to develop things in the Pilates, mind, body, and holistic living. But I was drinking, 6 bottles of wine a week. And I started feeling like there was a big dissonance. Like, I was living this one way all the time, and then I was drugging myself on the weekends to show up the way I was 8 years ago. And I was like, it started hurting a little. I started having arguments with people. I started browning out, I call it, where I'm like, gosh, I only had a whole bottle of wine, but yet I don't know why we were yelling. I remember yelling at each other. Why did that happen? And it stopped being fun all the time. So I decided to take a break so I could move forward with my business. I needed money. I needed time, single parent, all the things. And I took 6 months off, and I was surprised in that time to learn about all the other positive side effects for mental health, physical health, habit change in my life. All of a sudden, all these things that were really hard, that I thought I was a flawed person. I thought maybe I had some deeper mental illness that needed to be dealt with. And it was like, wow, I was just hungover all the time, a little bit. I was a little hungover every day.
Well.
So anyways, as that kind of sort of my spread around, because I was known through the land for my drinking here in Chicago,
Yeah.
and people are going, "You're still doing that? You know what the heck? Like, you're not an alcoholic. Why are you doing this?" And I stayed with it. I would experiment. I lived a long break lifestyle where I take 6 months off, and then I go, well, maybe if I have wine at this time of day, and try different things, and
Experiment with, yeah, the
it always gave
same.
the same result. Like, I would be a little irritable and anxious, and I would feel self-conscious about showing up on social media. All these little things would be harder. And I went, oh, there's the drugs kicking in again. And people started asking me, I started counseling people. And at some point I said, you know what, let's just get a group together, because this is like kind of getting time consuming. So let's all do it
Right.
together, and we'll go for like 3 months together. And then you see what you
Good.
want after that. And that was the first
Yes.
dynamics. And now I'm coming into my sixth time doing it, number 6.
Wow. Okay.
So it just keeps evolving. It keeps growing. It's different every single time. Much like Pilates teaching, you take a workshop, you have an experience, all of a sudden you're teaching pivots, and you respond to the people that are in your class, and
Yes.
change things based on that. And that's how dynamics is. There's a core, there's a system, but there's a lot of artistic freedom and a lot of flexibility within it as well.
Wow. So it's just a straight 3 months. You started with just organically 3 months of accountability and content, and then
hmm
started to formalize the content and just kind of package it nicer every time it came through.
Yeah, so I have kind of 3 pillars that we're working with this time. The first month is probably the most formulaic, because you're going through a detox, even if you only drink 2 times a month. I say that's kind of the person that'll benefit from this. You're drinking twice a month at least. And you also aren't powerless to alcohol. If you feel you don't have a choice, please reach out to me. I have many options of ways that you can get some support. But dynamics, you can't be in a place where you feel powerless. You just maybe don't understand why you keep making a choice that you do have the power over, but you're like, I wasn't going to drink, but I did. Why? Why did I do that again?
Yeah.
So now I forget your question.
I'm just saying, like, how,
Thank
like,
you.
the I know, the 3 months and how you bundled it and you
Oh,
packaged
yes,
it
yes, yes.
nicely, like
So we
differently
start.
every time. Your
Okay, we start
foundation.
with the detox and the education about alcohol and the science and the hormones and all the things. It's like cleaning the room. And
Hmm.
then once we've scrubbed all the walls and everything's looking sparkly, we start to look at what do we want to bring in? What are our desires, and why do we feel like we don't necessarily deserve the life that we want? We should get every literal thing that we want.
Yes.
So that's the second part, and then the last part is digging into a little bit more about like blocks. Like, okay, so for me, I had a big block with partnership for a while, and I did this amazing transsomatic dialogue, and it was your classic intimacy type blocks, and at the end of it, it was this idea of my fear of abandoning myself. These are things
Mm.
that I knew, like, don't abandon yourself, right? We hear that. But by going through this process, I was really able to experience what, like, a reparenting situation. So
Okay.
we're bringing that into the group this time as well, sort of your culmination three
Yes.
hour deep hypnotic meditation, and you're going to figure out why you're not getting that thing. Why won't you change careers? Why won't you start a business? Why won't you open up to love? Why are
Mm.
you always yelling at your kids? Why can't you forgive your mother? Whatever it is, there's something that
Yes.
you can move. There's a thing that you can move, and we
Yes.
are going to find out what that is. So at the end of the 3 months,
Wow.
sometimes people choose to be sober because they go, wow, I get a lot for this. This is a low
Hmm.
investment to get so much back. And they choose
Yes.
to stay that way. Other folks, they moderate in a different way for some period of time, and they decide, I'm going to keep alcohol, but I'm still happy I did that experience because it taught me some other stuff because I was open at that time.
Yes.
And then regularly I'll have people, now that it's been a couple of years, that are reaching out to me. Hey, I just want to let you know, I took a break in May and I still haven't drank. It's been 115 days. And they're just doing it on their own now because they know it's not like a big deal. Once you
Yes.
get through it, you're like, oh, why did I think that'd be such a big deal? It's really not.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There's such a sense of accomplishment too, right? That for
Yeah.
one, to get through it, to be able to just not just tick the box like emptily, but like to be like, okay, I achieved that. I didn't think I'd get to this point, for one. And two, your heightened sense of mindfulness or awareness of what you're doing. Like, I can't imagine doing that and then walking into taking your first drink after without giving it some real thought.
hmm
And
Yeah.
then that carrying on, right?
Oh yeah, it's not something like you get to the end of the 3 months, and because this isn't a challenge, this isn't like willpower based.
The
This
90
is
day
about
fitness challenge, right?
expansion, right? This is about expansion, and you just want to keep going. So honestly, people go, "Can you make it long?" You know, at first people go, "I'm not going to do that. 3 months, you're nuts." And then they're in it, and they're like, "Gosh, I wish it was longer. I can't believe it's ending." So down the road, I got to figure out a way to extend it because people really do love it, love being with it. And
Mm-hmm.
nobody's biting their nails sitting there staring at a bottle of champagne ready to pop it. That's never happened where
Yes.
people just go, I did it. Now I'm going to get drunk again. It's just not the case.
Let's celebrate with a bottle of
Yeah.
champagne
I mean, I'm not
because we
going to
made
say
it.
it's going to make you sober. I can't
Yeah.
say that. It's up to you. And sobriety is not linear. It's not like there's very few people who start at day one the first time and then they're sober for the rest of their lives. Yes, there are people that do that, but most people, there's a push and pull, there's an examination, there's an experimentation. Just like you experimented with drugs when you're a kid, you're going
Mm-hmm.
to experiment with sobriety in reverse. So, and I say
Yes.
drugs because alcohol is a drug. We
Right.
tend to say drugs and alcohol. It's ethanol. It's a drug. It's an intense drug. It's a very intense
Right.
drug, but we use it for such a long period of time that we don't actually sense the intensity of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, you take it out and then you go, wow, that thing, it's different than I thought it was going to be. It's different
Right.
when you're clear.
Yes. Yes. So the title that we were talking about just before it came to air was like sobriety versus being sober.
Yeah.
And you were talking about the fact that, and I wasn't even aware of this, that being the term sober has like a meaning and experience for you, but then
Yeah.
for many people, I'm sure sobriety and being sober has, you know, a
It,
loaded definition. So can you
it
please?
can be a little loaded. Well, I was
Yeah.
curious. Are you a drinker, Martin?
I have a rum collection.
Okay.
Um, so now, and at the same time, I grew up, never drinking. Like I didn't actually start collecting rum until 4 years ago.
Okay.
So what resonated with me and what you're saying, not that I'm skirting this, is like your relationship with alcohol, right? So I started to collect it, and I'm fascinated by it, and I'll drink it occasionally, but I wouldn't even consider myself a drinker. My wife jokes about the fact that when we met, she was like, "Well, let's go out for a drink." I was like, "I don't drink." She's like, "So you don't drink beer? Like you don't like what? Like sort of
I
thing."
know
'Cause
it's like stunning to people. Like, what
yeah,
happens? Why?
yeah, exactly. So it's just not
It's
my thing,
almost
right?
like,
So
yeah.
yeah.
And I'm just curious. I just didn't know, I'm
Mm-hmm.
always curious. It's no judgment at all. Like our culture is designed to people that are adults should drink based on the way that everything is supports you to be that.
Yes.
And, so where I get a little bit torn with sober and sobriety and using that word is because first of all, I'm sober-ish, or I'm on
Okay.
the slow briety train where I probably
Slow
have,
burn.
yes,
Nice word.
there's a great account, Sober Adjacent, and she coined that. I'm like, did you make that up?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So nice.
Um, but so so I never do well. I panic if it's like final. Like when I
Yeah.
gave up gluten
Absolute.
many
Right.
years ago, it's like, but I'm going to eat it if I'm at a restaurant.
Hmm.
Or I'm the same way, like I'm vegan in my house. We don't buy any meat. We don't buy
Yes.
any dairy. But you know what? If I go to the suburbs and I'm at my sister's and it's a birthday party and I'll eat a piece of pizza because that's what's there and I like
Right.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I'm less like that with alcohol. Alcohol is incredibly rare for me to use. And in fact, it's just something that I've learned, and this is what I teach in dynamics, to investigate. Like, I ended up having a drink on that because at that event, what was happening that was different that I'd never experienced that made me think today's the day I'm going to have a glass of wine. Things like I realized I don't like being stuck on boats with drunk people. That's hard for
Mm.
me. I will take a drink to numb out a little bit. It just takes the edge off. There's a reason
Yes.
why we do it. Like our nervous systems get overwhelmed, especially
Mm.
if everybody else is intoxicated and they're in this, we have these socially responsive nervous systems. So I don't shame myself. I'm not like starting from scratch, all for nothing. It's like, you know
Yes.
what?
Yeah.
I didn't want to be there is a purpose that it can serve as well. So I
Mm.
don't beat myself up for that. But there's an occasion a couple times a year where I might decide I want to have a glass of wine. I mean, I'm talking like 5 units of alcohol a year. And even at this point, I don't even I could easily let that go too. But I
Yes.
don't want to feel like I'm beholden to a commitment. it's just not my style. And I think that's what
Mm-hmm.
turns a lot of people off to it as well. A lot of people would be
Absolutely.
sober, but it seems like it's an all or nothing thing.
Right.
And then there's a second part where I'm like, okay, sure, you haven't had alcohol in 4 years, but you drink 6 cups of coffee a day, or
Mm-hmm.
you're constantly a victim, you're an emotional addict, you're
Yes.
smoking, you're taking, whatever pharma things to take the edge off. To me, those are all chemical and spiritual addictions or emotional
Mm-hmm.
addictions. So where does sobriety begin and end? Because we kind of live in a culture that it asks us to be addicted to things in some way. Some things are good, like some
Right.
people are addicted to achievement. Some people are addicted to working. That's collecting money. I mean, those
Mm-hmm.
are all things that are really supported as positive things in our culture. But
Yeah.
but are you using it in the same way as somebody who would numb out with a drink? Are you numbing
Right.
out with, I'm very busy, have to get to
Mm-hmm.
work, can't talk, can't
Right.
connect?
Those are hard questions, right? Like,
Yeah,
and people don't want
yeah,
to ask themselves that question. And actually, Emma has a comment here, and I'm going to ask a question off of it. So
yeah.
he was saying, it's amazing that you found the strength and the strategy that allows you to dip into it without fear that you'll relapse. Is the word relapse a loaded term as well, like sober?
Um, I think it works for some people. It's kind of like any modality of anything. For a long time, it was AA was the model. That was the only thing that existed. These days, there's a ton of things, and there's other people like me that are in this gray space.
Yeah.
So, some folks have had experiences with alcohol that are largely, interact the more intensely you're addicted is related to either personal trauma, intergenerational trauma. You
Mm-hmm.
have physiologic sensitivities. There's many components. So for some folks, they have a drop of alcohol and they might really be liable to get themselves into some situations. So for them, it feels safer and better to count the days and to consider relapse as the start over point. That works for some people's brains,
Yes.
but a lot of people it doesn't, and then they relapse, and instead of going, I had one glass of wine on a boat, they go
Mm-hmm.
for a 4-day bender because I already relapsed.
Yes. Right.
Screw it
Right.
all.
Yep.
And then that's when you get into trouble, right? Then it's
Mm-hmm.
when you're drunk driving or calling the ex or whatever because you're on day 3 and you're self-loathing, and whereas when there's
Mm-hmm.
no pressure about a relapse and you have a beverage, you can use it consciously as a, just like, if you were always around somebody and you got back pain every time you saw them, or every time you saw them you bit all your nails off,
Yes.
there's signals happening. Something's up with that relationship. Can you dig into that and clear it? It's not
Right.
like you have to leave it, but maybe you have to say something or move something. And I
Right.
think of the alcohol urge as a signal, and that's what I try to teach people, to read their body signals and
Mm-hmm.
utilize them. If every time you see your college friends you have to be drunk, do you still connect with those people? Are they your people anymore? And that's okay if
Right.
they're not right now.
Right. Yeah.
Just be real.
And you called it a gray area, but that if you're calling it a gray area, that's going with the assumption that being 100% sober is like the gold star, and then being alcoholic is the other side of it, right? Whereas what you're talking about is
Yeah.
something different in terms of actually establishing a healthy relationship with X, in this case, alcohol, or your emotional well-being, or fitness, or whatever it is, right? Like, I mean, you could have an unhealthy. One of my clients back in the day was, did Ironman, did all these different things, but when it got down to it, his father died early because he wasn't exercising. He had a preventable disease, but he refused to just move, and just out of defiance. So he died early, lost his dad. So then he's like, I have
Wow.
to exercise, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to exercise. That sense, so there's this obsession with exercise to defy death and to prove that I can prevent, like, that sort of thing. So like, it's
Yeah.
cool that you're 11% body fat and you could do 3 Ironman a year, but at the same time, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, at the same time, how are his intimate relationships? Like, is he able to connect with his spouse or his people, or is it always like the fitness is first and there's no flexibility there? It's like
mhm,
kind of like moving with tension
yes,
versus moving with relaxation. And I think for
right,
me and for the people that I'm working with is they want to move through this in a relaxed way. They don't want to move through it with rules, and you're a failure, and you're this
Right.
disease, and you are all of these things. It's like when you get a client and they say, oh, I had knee surgery, so I am not allowed to bend. I'm not allowed to twist, or whatever
Right.
they say. And you're like, but you brush your teeth. I'm pretty sure you bend for that. And I just saw you put on your shoes,
Hmm.
but then they
Right.
come onto the mat and I'm not allowed. So it's a lot of the same thing of
Yes.
breaking down
Yes.
ideologies, and going,
Right.
hold on, we're already here. Like you already
Hmm.
believe these things.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, it, it's hard for folks. I really am so happy to see the movement that's happening with people choosing to take things out that don't serve them. You don't have to be lactose intolerant to know that when you eat dairy, your stomach's upset, and you just kind of like feel better if you don't. If you're
Hmm.
somebody that optionally took out dairy without needing to,
Yes.
or any of the many things that we do. And it's like alcohol will have the healthiest, most regimented people, but they're drinking 10, 20, 30 units of alcohol per week. You're annihilating all those supplements you take. They're not getting absorbed. All that
Hmm.
organic food, the nutrients, they can't pass through. You've annihilated your gut microbiome. You have leaky gut. You've got all this stuff because of alcohol. It's like a waste in a way. It kind of cancels things. And I
Right.
think we've got this idea that, oh, this is balancing that. Like,
Mm.
you can't balance it. There's
Right.
no, it's like cutting your arm and then, I don't know, drinking honey. Like, it doesn't fix that. It's a different thing.
Right. 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 Yeah.
So, um, I'm happy that more people are coming into that space of going, I don't have a problem with drinking. I only drink, maybe a couple times a week, but I wonder if I'd be less anxious, or if I wouldn't, um, if I'd be more confident,
Mm.
if I'd have more self-trust, if I just moved it away.
Right. 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 Yeah, I think this is a great conversation to have from that perspective, because I'm sure some people feel uncomfortable with the notion of giving it up for 9 days when they don't have to.
Exactly. And they're like, how dare you? Like, how dare you? That is my thing that makes me happy.
Mm.
That's all I have. For some people, what's really important with adults that we don't get enough of, and it's almost gaslighting when a coach tells me to do something like this, is play. Go have fun. It's like, I don't know how. I think a
Yeah,
lot of grown-ups are like that. And
right.
where do we play? We play by having drinks on the patio, and razzing each other and doing this kind of, it's like ego play, though, where
Mm.
when you actually take the stimulant away, you start to get your chemistry back in order. You start to get joy from things like a hug, or your child. I didn't really like my kid. I'm not going to lie. When I was a drinker, she was a burden to me.
Oh, wow.
Okay, like, I
Yes.
hate to say it, but I was a single mom. I cared for her deeply. I loved her, but I didn't really like enjoy playing. I was like, oh,
Yes.
Barbies, yay,
Right.
And
Yeah.
then I gave up alcohol, and there was this empty period, and all of a sudden I'm watching at that time she was like 7 or 8, and I'm like, oh my God, she's so funny, fun, interesting. Like, what am I thinking
Hmm.
here? Like, watch the children, like,
What was I
they're not
missing?
drunk.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that kind of was started opening me up to things like, why don't I go rent a kayak on the Chicago River? I always say I want to do that. Why don't I just go do that? Why don't I be more proactive about going to art shows, and like getting sensory experiences that just all of a sudden I just walked around happy all the time. The sober people aren't faking it. I used to think that they're faking being happy. I'm like, they can't really be happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's true. It's just easier over here. And
That's
your
funny.
joy chemicals are more like aligned with a child, because your brain hasn't been tampered with. So you get those little spikes and those little bursts, and you laugh easier, um, and you let go easier too. I think everything. I don't hold grudges. I don't engage with back and forth that seems unproductive, and things that I
Fickle.
used to
Yeah.
fall into more.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
What sparked you? So you said you weren't a drinker, but then you started collecting rum.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
So it's I, like I said, I never really drank, like actually did not drink, period, flat out. And I was at a bar. There's a jazz bar in Toronto that I used to go to all the time. And one day I was downtown by myself, And I thought, well, I'm headed home. It's kind of late. There's a band on that I know. So I just walked into the bar, just listened to this band. And I was just sitting there. I was like, I'm going to order a rum and Coke just by myself, right? So I ordered
Yeah.
the rum and Coke. And as I was bringing it to my lips, I smelt this like Ray and Nephew white rum that my dad used to drink. And it was like, all these flashbacks of my dad with his buddies playing dominoes and me walking up as a kid and asking for a drink and then almost spitting it out because there was something weird in the Coke, right? You know, like
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So I had all these like fond memories of my dad drinking. I thought like, I'm going to start collecting rums because every island has a rum and every rum has a story. And I don't drink wine. I don't want to try other stuff to figure out if those taste good to my wife. You know, we like tequilas, so we'll try some tequilas now. But rums, I'm like, you know, if my clients come back from a different island, they'll bring one for me. So I have a bunch of different rums, and every now and then I'll just sip on them. But like, it's that relationship with stuff that I always analyze, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm I'm not at a place because I've gone through all through high school and through university, not drinking, right? And those things. So I didn't connect drinking with having fun. I had to be drunk to have sex, or I have to be drunk to party, or drunk to do this, like that sort of stuff. It just became this fascination with the story behind the rum, and I like the different tastes now, and I just try them, and then that's it. And that's
You
really
know,
where I landed it.
I love that because I was a person that, I remember the first time I kissed somebody after I stopped drinking. It was like teeth. I don't know. It did not feel good. I had to get over
Yeah.
that first. There's a lot of times when you take off alcohol, it's like the first time you go to a wedding, the first time you dance, the first time you have sex, the first time you kiss, the first time, so many things. Because I just, every time I wasn't working, if I was with people, there was alcohol. I'm in Chicago, which is a very drunk city.
Hmm.
Like in Chicago, it's normal for people my age. I'm almost 40. Like you get hammered like a couple times a week. Not weird. Not alcoholics considered. It's totally encouraged. It's the lifestyle.
Yes.
And I don't think that's the way in every city. I feel like Chicago's definitely got a high drinking vibe to it.
It's, it's
And
part
I
of
worked
it's
in the
part of its
restaurant
history,
industry.
right? Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
that.
Oh
Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
then I was in wine, and I was, that Chicago restaurant person, and we kind of have that, oh, this is like I'm drinking this art, so it's not,
Hmm.
maybe I had ten drinks of art. But
Yes.
it was for the name of research.
Right.
So when I took away alcohol, I am somebody that also believes that there's value in utilizing chemicals and substance, all indigenous, all like back to more traditional cultures do utilize for ceremony. Whatever various, whether it be peyote or alcohol or marijuana or whatever,
Hmm.
it's utilized. That's how we even knew it exists. But the problem is, they're very addictive substances. So if you are a person who goes overboard and utilizes a whole bunch of it, then it's not going to be a good deal for you. And I think the problem with alcohol is that we act like it's normal to have it every day. Like alcohol is no different than cocaine or peyote or mushrooms or whatever. And hey,
Hmm.
to each his own. If you want to have an experience, if you want to have a ceremony, I think there's a lot of power behind that. And it sounds to me like you utilize the rum in a ceremonious way. You're not just like,
I
it's
guess.
Friday at five
Yeah.
o'clock, glug
Right.
glug, my
Yeah.
life is too stressful. Use it for ceremony. Use it for an intentional space is a lot different than just acting like it's what you do at night. How weird would it be if you were like, yeah, I've been eating mushrooms like 3, 4 times a week. It's fun. It takes
Right.
the edge off. Like that would be like, what? That's kind of too much, I think.
Right. Right.
But we don't bat an eye with alcohol. We don't consider it a drug for
Right.
some
Yeah.
reason,
It's normalized, right?
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's fascinating. I like. I keep coming back to relationship and system. Those are two words that kind of been catchphrases the last few weeks. Is that like one, your relationship. I've had nutritionists on here, and we could talk high level, counting macros and nutrients and all these different things. Or you have someone who's really good at their job, and they'll say, "Well, why did you eat that? What
Mm-hmm.
happens every time you eat that? How would you feel if you didn't eat that? Like that sort of thing." And they're diving deep into your relationship with food. And I think it's the same thing with alcohol, right? Like, what is your relationship? What are those connections with it? So when we look at it from that perspective, then that's a different dialogue than that success and failure, absolute black and white. Do it, don't do it. Let's dive deeper on it. And I love the fact that this does that,
Yeah.
and accountability too, right? Like that's
Oh
huge
yeah,
on
I mean
it.
the fact again talk about our nervous system. So we're with a group, and that immediately disarms your whole situation. You're not on your own. You're not with a bunch of strangers. It's a small, intimate group, and we do work with the body, and we're really considering the whole person here.
Mm-hmm.
And when you just said something that I was going to add on to, I hate when I do that.
Jump in next
I
time.
decided
Interrupt me
not to
totally.
have caffeine today. It's always
Yes.
like, do I have a cup of tea or not? I don't want to be too zippy. I try not to have caffeine as much as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Accountability, relationship, nutrition,
yeah.
connection.
I mean, those are all the things in our
Those are all
group.
the things. Yeah.
And that's why it works and it's easy.
Right.
Like it's
Yes.
hard. I tried to quit drinking on my own many times, like not forever, but just like to do a 2-week cleanse or a 1 month or whatever. And I never really could get, most people can get like 10 days, 2 weeks on their own. And then after that, it starts being really challenging.
Yes.
And so, yes. Hey, Michael, he says, I've used the phrase unhealthy relationship with X for decades. Exactly.
Yes.
It's like,
Yeah.
just be honest about it. And so, the fact that you're with the group and that we're co-regulating together, it gets you through that part that's hard on your own. Like we're not meant
Yes.
to do stuff on our own. We're just
Right.
not. It's not the
Right.
way our
Right.
nervous systems are designed. It's not the way we're pack animals. So when people come through dynamics, they just feel like it's easy. It's fun. It's not like, again, that punishment. It's not like, well, you've been a real POS for the last year and a half. Now it's time to pay. In fact, even in the beginning of the program, people are usually like, and I'm going to stop eating after 8 o'clock and I'm going to, do all these things. And I'm like, absolutely not. Don't do anything but focus on alcohol. And if you want to have a whole pie every day, you need that pie and eat it. And we'll
Right.
work on
We'll
like
work on that.
curbing
Right.
that. But at first, you really put yourself in injury. Alcohol annihilates your gut. Really, the microbiome, the actual lining of the gut is heavily damaged from alcohol. So much like if you just got surgery, you'd sit in bed eating ice cream because your body like just needs the calories and it needs the protein and it needs the things. You kind of got to allow yourself to feed as much as possible when you take that first break, that first couple weeks off because you're healing.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine too, like the conversations you had to have about talking people off the ledge of beating themselves up because, 10 days in they have a drink or just whatever brought them to this place, like all these different things. There's so many different things you have to navigate and get people like locked into the goal. So do you spend a lot of time on like goal setting and getting people to figure out like what does life look like in 90 days sort of thing?
Yeah, so we come into the program and you have an onboarding with me where I get to learn a little bit more about your drinking style and how you like to use alcohol, and also about where you're feeling stuck. So like my ideal person is somebody that just kind of, they miss themselves. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
I used to be this way and I don't feel that way at all anymore. And there's like a grief there too. And they want that back. So they're feeling a little stuck, maybe a little boxed in. They don't feel like they have a lot of choices. They feel like they just have to endure whatever their life is. If that's how you're feeling, you're ideal for dynamics. So in that first meeting, we kind of get at, well, what is a thing that you desire that might feel so wild and crazy and far away? And for some people, it's something like grad school. For some people, it's just having good habits and working out every day. It's like can be very basic too.
Mastery of something.
Right, like dental care. Maybe I wish I flossed my teeth every day or brushed my teeth at night, and I feel like I want to do that. We start with some simple habits in there too, and then by the end of the program, will you have completed grad school? No, but maybe you've actually applied to a bunch of them or written the letters or researched, or will you have a boyfriend that you're in love with or girlfriend that you're in love with? I can't say that, but what I will say is that something moved and opened you. I love this program for single people, by the way. If you're a drinker and you're single, you can have a whole new experience with dating if you stop drinking on your dates. And it's hard to do when you are a drinker. You have to get out of the cycle, but oh my God, the quality of people that I started interacting with when I just in our conversations, they'd ask for a drink and I'd suggest going for a walk or going to a yoga class or whatever, half the time they drop out immediately. Ugh, I'm not doing that. This woman wants too much from me. I don't want to then. That's okay. I thank you for not like wasting my time.
Thanks for saving my time. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if they'll hang out with you sober, that's already a good sign. I don't even talk about my drinking until it comes up. And maybe on date 3, 4, we're in an environment where there's drinking and I say, yeah, I don't really like alcohol. I just don't like how it makes me feel anymore. So I'm just gonna have water or soda, whatever. You go ahead and drink. 95% of the time, that person immediately respects you. There's a level of standard that you've just given out to the world, and that is incomparable. And I'm telling you, you will have better results if you date sober. And but it's too hard if you're a regular drinker. You gotta come to Dynamics first and get comfortable with that.
Find your tribe that's gonna be your back and they're gonna got your corner, and then you'll have some more power to say no.
Yeah, and it's wonderful. I mean, and that's not just dating. I mean, it's like everything. If you've got a friend who you think is one of your close friends because you go to happy hour every day, and then when you stop drinking and you go, hey, will you meet me for coffee, or do you want to go to do this hike with me? I'm not doing that. And it's like, wow, you won't meet me where I am at all. That there's sometimes you go to a relationships when you take these breaks and you go, I'm no disrespect. You don't need to be doing what I'm doing, but I also need to not prioritize this relationship. I'm not going to go to a bar and sit there while I'm detoxing because that's going to feel really hard. It's going to not be fun for me. We're done self-sacrificing. Something that I feel like drinkers, there's a lot of people pleasing with drinking. There's a lot of showing up a way that people expect you to show up.
Yeah, inauthentically. Right.
Yeah, like I'm going to go on a date and drink so I can be like coy and sarcastic and sassy. Like maybe I think that's what the guy I like would like. When actually the guy I likes a relaxed person. And that's who I really am all day, every day. But then I think I need to put on this persona to attract something.
Right.
And we don't, just do it in relationship. We show up in career. We show up in friendship as this persona that alcohol helps us do. And it's a mask, it's protective.
Yeah,
it's protective.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you don't need it. It feels better without all that armor. Just you move freer.
I love that. The thing just in general about accountability, I like finding people to lock arms with, because like I live life on purpose. Like there's intentionality. So am I surrounding myself with people that are going to help me get there and help them get there, or people, you know what I mean? So like if all those things have to tie into it. So all that you said there just lines up with that sense of, okay, well, that person was with me when I was in this phase of my life. I'm trying to get to this phase. Is this person going to be with me in this next chapter of life? If not, thanks for the memories. And
I'm careful to say, I don't even want to say thanks for the memories. Like I remember when I first started drinking, me and my dad didn't really connect. I was like pretty sad about it, to be honest. It's like he was kind of like pissed. Like I broke the contract. Like we sit around at the campfire and we get drunk. Like what's the deal? Right. Yeah, and so I felt like that relationship needed to take just some time to develop. And many friendships of mine have gone for full circle. So I do teach people, please, if you're taking a break from drinking at this stage of the game, folks think that's crazy and weird. And they're going to be like, why would you do that to yourself? Yes. Don't. You're not an alcoholic. Don't do that to yourself. You don't need to. And you're like, no, I know. It's for fun. And so people just you got to know that people aren't going to get it. And they're going to question what's happening. And they're going to feel threatened about their own drinking habit too. They're going to project it onto themselves, even though you're not trying to do that.
Absolutely.
So we got to give people space to process what we're doing. And then know that if you decide to stay on the more sober path, that the friends that are meant to cycle back in, they 100% will, whether they quit drinking or not. You just got to have faith. That's something I say a lot. It's just keep wherever you're going, keep going, have patience and have faith. That's what's for you is for you, and it will be there.
Yes. Yeah. And there's this audit of our friendships that we should do from time to time, almost like you're pruning a tree, right? So making sure that it can always grow. And I think that when you ever make any kind of life change, you would leave a job, or like you change churches, or like you move, whatever it is. The
Start a
people that
relationship, end a
you start a
relationship.
relationship, end a relationship, whatever. There's so many different things I've seen in my life where I thought that I was close with those people, but I was close with those people only in that context.
Yeah.
And there's other people that have transcended many contexts and they're still with me. And
Yeah.
those
Like,
are like my people, so to speak, right? And those are the ones who are going to support you through that.
yeah, you'll know really quick. It's also a really cool thing, just like dating without alcohol. Um, your friends, that if you are sober, when you are sober, your friends that are really your ride or dies, it absolutely doesn't change a single thing at all,
Yes. Right.
not in the slightest. And you'll also notice that you might have been the only reason that they were drinking. That's what I found out.
Too
I'm like, do you
funny.
guys not drink? Like, you
No,
just were, because I
we're
always just
following your
brought,
lead.
they just showed up with bottles clanking every time, and they're like, okay, they went along with it because we all do that. But I'm like, then when I took it away, I started noticing how many people were sort of undercover, basically sober, that I was hanging out with, that were only drinking with me. So you get surprised at your own community,
Yes.
how much is actually there. You can't see it because you're the drinker, and they don't want to impose. It's such an imposition, to put your sobriety towards somebody that's a drinker. Like, let them enjoy their alcohol.
Wow.
But when you take it away, it opens something, all kinds of new places in
Fascinating.
the same life with the same people. And yes, there's a little collateral, but
Yes.
construction takes destruction. That's just the way that it goes. It's some courage required, and that's okay.
Yes. Crazy. Okay, this is
Yeah.
like, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
We
that's
have a good
awesome.
time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's 11 o'clock. Like that was a super fast conversation. I didn't even ask you like about your whole Pilates journey and how you fought, how you found Pilates and all that stuff. I think we need to do
Yeah.
a round two for
I'd
sure.
be happy to come back.
All
I'd
right.
love to. So we'll do it
So
again.
where can people find you? Like, and also when is the next like
Yeah, I should at least give
class?
that information,
Yeah,
right?
let's get that. Let's
So
slide that in.
there's a program coming up. I'm promoting it like crazy right now. The next group starts September 14th, and it runs until December 7th. All right, so you've
Okay.
got some great obstacles in there. You need
What?
obstacles for this to work. You've got Thanksgiving,
Yes.
maybe a holiday party or two. You got Halloween.
Right.
Believe me, don't shy away from obstacles. There is no 3-month period where there are not obstacles. I can promise you that. So you want to come in with them. In fact, when
Yes.
folks don't have obstacles, I'm like, we got to create one. Who makes you want to drink? What
Mm.
situations make you want to
Yes,
drink? We
that's
got to
real talk.
have that to work into. So,
Yes.
so that's when the program runs. The enrollment is open right now until Tuesday. So you got this weekend to think about it. I'm going to be kind of just around a lot, and I
Hmm.
have. If folks want to have a conversation directly with me, they can book in my link either at the Dynamics 90 Day, where I'm coming in from here, or at Deep Line Health Club. I'm at both accounts. And there's a way to sign up for Dynamics in the link. There's a way to schedule a call. You can DM me if you want to just ask a few questions.
Yep.
I'm happy to talk about it. If you're like, I'm having way deeper issues with alcohol where I do feel powerless, also please reach out, because there are so many options. If you're not an AA person,
Hmm.
there are other things to be had, and I have a lot of resources. So I'd be happy to share them with
Amazing.
you.
Thank you so much for sharing all this
You're
information.
welcome.
I really, really appreciate it, Kate, because I think that there's so many times that we see things, even in our Pilates practice, the people that we cross
Mm-hmm.
paths with, and we at least should have those tools in our toolbox to identify things and
Yeah.
then to connect them with people who have dove deep on it. And I just appreciate you coming into our community and sharing that.
Yeah, it was a really great opportunity. Love watching your talks, and I look forward to us talking again. Thanks to
Nice.
everybody who joined and watched, and I hope we connect. Hey,
Absolutely.
Tammy.
Yes. Yeah, so Emmett, so interesting, insightful. Thank you for sharing. Great conversation, Tammy. Yes, I concur. So good. Awesome. Okay, Kate, I will send you a message after, and let's find another time, like sooner than later. Maybe we can squeeze in
We'll love
before
it.
you start your program again.
Hey, I'd love it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like have my weekend open for Dynamics needs, so let's chat.
There you go. Awesome. Okay,
Send Marty your
thanks.
questions.
Yes,
See you
please
later.
do. All right, see ya.
Bye.